Hey, what is up everyone? Welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to be building and trying to take a look at the Master Grade Destiny Gundam Extreme Blast mode. Now this is definitely always been a legend of a kit right here. It's basically the Destiny with big old wings of light. It's Master Grade, so it is 1/100 scale, so it is pretty big. However, I will mention, for me, I do find that a lot of older Master Grades from Seed can be a little bit iffy. I find pretty much the watershed for when Seed kits got awesome was the 2013 version of Strike, which was the Strike Remaster. From there on out, they're all absolutely glorious, but some before are a little bit not so glorious is probably the best way to put it, and I would say this might be one of them. Now, I have built the Master Grade that guy version of this, and I found it to be a very underwhelming kit, even back when I built it, which was probably in the mid-2010s, maybe about 2012 or 13, somewhere there. I wanted it because it was a rare kit. It was orange. I thought it'd be fun. I didn't really love it so much, but things have changed since then, so I might be able to appreciate it on a different level. According to the box right here, this is a kit from all the way back in 2007, so it is a dated kit. We've got a red Bandai logo down there, so that does mean that this is not a reprint of any kind, and it also does say on the box here it's the Extreme Blast Mode Special Version. So it says something about chrome Mecha parts in here, so there are going to be some kind of plated or shiny parts in here, and there's a clear 1/20th scale figure as well, apparently. But yeah, that's pretty much enough about it. If you want one of these, you can get it exactly where I got mine, and that is through Bai. Link in the description. Now let's get it built. So first off, busting off that saran wrap of purity. I think they just put this on so the box doesn't open up. Inside of that, then we've got a bunch of plastic looking a little bit on the old side. First off, here are the Mecha parts. This may not really pick up on the videos too much because I tried to remove as much yellow as possible, but there's a mild little yellow tinge to the clear plastic on this. That is definitely a sign of an older kit, and it's just something kind of normal. Also, the bags just don't seem as clear as they once would have. However, the plastic inside looks absolutely perfect. Alright, on busting everything out of the bags, there is a decent amount of plastic in here, but not crazy, probably not comparable to a modern Master Grade kit. As for interesting aspects that are inside the box, we do have one big old bolt in here. I assume that is for with the included stand. Speaking of which, there is that included stand, which is always very nice to get. This right here looks like a kind of variant of the older Master Grade, or should I say Action Base 2. When it comes to the kind of tilting edge, actually it's nothing like it, but it's cool to have a themed stand with a kit, most definitely. We've got some clear effect parts in here. One beam shield that does look incredibly nice. We of course have the wings of light for this. These are very, very simple. They're just kind of a ridged piece of plastic. The only way you know left from right is it's written on the little packet right here, but you can probably tell the ridges being on the front, not the back, as well as probably the holographic coating. Other interesting aspects being the metallic plastic. This is an injection silver. Doesn't look too bad at all, honestly. And this looks incredible. Now, this is kind of blown out the camera a little bit just because of how shiny it is. We may get little nubs here and there where we cut this out, but we'll see how that works out in the end. These sections are not undergated, so I expect to see a lot of little black pockmarks. There are polycaps in this kit, and funny enough, they are silver too, so that's interesting. We've got the 1/20th scale clear figures in here. Now, this I love. This is really cool. This is something they should do more often, I feel, with Master Grades. It's always nice to have a little pilot to display with them. It comes in a nice clear, so it does look kind of unique, even if not painted, but these are, they're a really good size to paint. Hand painting these shouldn't be too difficult at all. There's their little clear base, and honestly, if I wasn't doing this in a kind of bit of a rush to get it done in one day, I would love to paint these. Lastly, then we have these. These make me a little nostalgic. These are the old school Master Grade stickers. Now, we do have color correcting stickers, not great. We do have decal sticker style stickers, also not great, but it's these rub-on ones I always love. They always just looked so perfect on plastic. Just rub those on, definitely give the kit a bit of a top coat to protect it, and they can always look phenomenal, almost seamless. Next up in here, we've got the manual. Now, there's a lot of things you could say have kind of aged poorly in some of these kits. Some of them are absolutely awesome, and one of the things that's absolutely awesome, and I miss them so much, is the way they did the manual on Seed kits. Hopefully this will be the way that I think that it is. So you've got the actual line art of the Gundam, which is always cool to see, besides the kind of where you're going to stick the stickers onto it. The general sort of stuff that you see when it comes to the manual, including the various runners in here. And we've got 13 runners to this kit, not including the stand and the effect parts and the little figures and all that. So that's not a lot. You'll get some high grades with that amount of runners these days. But yeah, there we go. This is the sort of stuff I miss. The illustrations of each unit. The description is just in Japanese because these are older kits, so it's not translated yet. But this is really cool. I like to know a little bit more about the tech specs. The various little illustrations are so cool. For example, they're talking about the wing unit. You get a little bit of a drawing of what that looks like, and it's just got so much character compared to the way things are these days, where it's just plain instructions. Got some more images and whatnot right there, but it is, to me, these are the best aspects, just talking about the various things with a little bit of a line art to them. There isn't really a whole lot in this one. Sometimes you've got a little bit of a breakdown of the internal structure of some things, but it's just kind of nice aspect that we did see with seed kits. Once again, there's where the decals go on. Wait a minute, if that's the decals, what was it back here? Oh yeah, it just says what everything is. That's cool. Just like here, 1, blade antenna. So yeah, in Japanese, that's not a V-fin, it's a blade antenna. Also, one thing in the manual that I think is super important that they don't always do these days is this right here. These are the runners you need for a certain part. So I'm going to start in the leg right now, and I know what runners to get and which ones I don't need, cluttering up the desk. So jumping straight on into the build with the legs, so I've one of them built already. This is definitely a simple kit by modern master grade standards, but still has some nice aspects. Nice bend at the knee. The plated plastic is definitely unique. It's a little bit stiff, mainly because I guess they've added a couple of layers of paint or coating to that, so it would be a little bit tighter than just the bare parts. Overall, quite nice. A little bit of a thruster section here. Again, simple, but at the same time, classic master grade. As for the build-up, we've got one of these plastic sections right here for the upper thigh. Polycap then attaches on in for basically where the hip swivel section will go. This little part right here is what fuels the moving thigh armor gimmick, and then that all closes up like so. So pretty simple. And there's a lot of creaking to this build, like, listen. It's extremely creaky. Onto that little hook section then, we've got this part that just clicks on like so. There we go. Again, this is the thigh armor splitting mechanism. Some more classic master grade gimmicks right here. This part right here, this is part of the way the knee pulls open when it bends, so the knee armor attaches on here, and these parts then attach on into the various moving parts. Simple mechanism, but effective. On to the first of the actual chrome Mecha parts, so the chromed out sections. Now this is not undergated, so that does mean when you are cutting these out, you will be getting little marks. Now the plastic underneath is in a light grey, or just a regular grey, so it doesn't, well, it does pop quite a bit from the actual plated part. That right there is what it ends up looking like, so when it catches the light, it doesn't look the greatest. We'll have another look at this once we've put this particular joint together. There is a little bit of a balancing act in here when you're actually building this. So first there is the top segment. There again is what makes that thigh armor work. So when it bends like that, this just pulls down. So simple little mechanism, but it does the job well. The knee section there just slots in here. That's all that holds it in. So it is balancing while you're building it. So I just suggest lining these two parts up to the point where they're almost attached, but not quite. And then slipping this guy in there. That way, you're less likely to have it like drop out on you. It's a bit of a pain in the arse. Now there is where it's been clipped, so that does not look awesome at all. There's nothing really around on the back. There is some down at the bottom right here, but that one's always going to be viewable from the front perspective. So I would Gundam marker that or hit it with a paint. Now I will mention, this Mecha part has actually kind of yellowed a little bit. It's not shown on camera, but this does have a yellow semi-oxidized kind of hue to the paint. Next up down the lower leg, we do have two polycaps that attach in, and I've noticed these kind of slip in a little easier than your standard gray polycaps. I'm not sure if that's a good or bad thing, but only time will tell. Speaking of not slipping in so great, this is definitely tight and creaky. That doesn't sound too great and doesn't feel too great attaching it on. The other side of the thigh pops on. The other side of the lower leg then attaches on just like that. Again, hyper creaky. Upper leg section is made out of 3 of those chromed out parts. I don't know if that's a good idea. One thing I've always noticed about chromed sections is the plastic that are actually chromed with the Mecha finish tend to be a little bit on the brittle side, and all 3 parts of this are actually made out of that. Not sure how that will hold up. This might be more of a display model kit as opposed to a play model kit. Onto a bit of the armor now. This just pops onto what we just built. There's the front, there is the back, and now you can actually see that little bit of a splitting mechanism in action. So classic master grade gimmick right there. The thruster is the first gray section in here. We've got a bit of armor for on top of that. It simply attaches into a polycap back here, so simple. Down at the lower leg, it is rear armor and front armor yet again, so the only seam line we're getting here is in the actual armor. Now, I will mention, it is kind of hard to clean up this kit compared to a more conventional modern master grade, because you do have a lot of kind of curved sections, and that is where Bandai has put some of the nubs. If you've ever tried to nip a nub in a curved section, you'll realize you can't actually line up your nipper that well, so you will need to use either a blade to cut these out, or a bit of flexible sanding sticks or sandpaper or something like that to actually clean up the nub in there, because a standard nipper can't really get in to a recessed curve. For the rest of the leg then, we've got some calf armor that just slaps on side and side. We've got a splash of color on top as well, which is blue, and then it's just the knee armor, which is 3 pieces, gray, and a darker gray, which results in this right here. So the leg itself is finished, and we're onto the foot. When it comes to the build of the foot in here, this would be rivaled by a lot of modern high grades. There really isn't much to it. The front of the foot is just the bottom, a joint section, and the red section, and then the grey armor. The heel is a polycap sandwiched between 2 pieces, and then the heel armor attached on. We do have another, older master grade staple, which was the pistons. So we have lower pistons in the lower section of the leg. Then when you build the ankle, we've got the upper piston section like so. And when you attach them together, basically you get your full functioning piston. Finally, then you do throw on a bit of ankle armor. And this right here is what you get. Now, there's not much actual bending to this, considering there is a joint inside of it. And again, quite simple. Again, that is just kind of par for the course from a kit from back then. Anyway, there we go. There is a finished leg, and that means we've got 2 of them. Now, onto the part of the Destiny I remember not being that awesome, and that is the waist unit. Okay, so now moving on to the waist unit, which I've always felt is kind of the Achilles heel, or should I even say the Achilles crotch of this particular kit. Man, this is not easy to get in. There we go. That takes a lot of pressure to actually push that in on through. So yeah, this is the mechanism for the hips in here, and this is not the greatest. Polycaps then up here for the side skirting armors. These hips right here being the offenders, I find. So this is a funny kind of mechanism which allows the hips to move out and up, which really isn't the greatest direction. So this is a locking mechanism. So they're locked in here like so. Got a little switch that pushes forward. Actually, I'll do that when it's put together. So this bit then slots on over it just like that. Now, yes, there's a mechanism down here. Basically, when this is pushed forward, the hips can come out like so. And when it's pushed back, they're in like so. They never stay in. They always pop out, and it's just a real janky hip unit. This is a bit of a funky design and just never really worked out. This can be a pain in the arse once the kit is finished for it dropping poses. The rest of it just builds up in the normal kind of way. Again, not very non-high grady, really. Those are the rear skirts just held on by a single piece. There is no layering underneath the armor, so this is what you get. I do recommend just kind of masking this off and spraying the inside gray just so it matches and looks a little bit more mechanical and a little less on the kind of old school or cheap looking side. Again, that's what I would do if I wasn't just straight building this for the sake of getting a build. But then again, it would give a bit of a false kind of impression of what the kit does look like. So I guess this is the most accurate way to show it. So we do have some layering up part separation in here. This side skirting armor is built up out of 3 sections, so that pops up there. The thruster aspect pops in there, and I will note that this kit doesn't cover any of its nubs with the way it builds up. That is a way that some older kits were, and this just attaches almost, again, kind of like a high grade, just into a polycap, just like that. So yeah, even though this waist unit does have a bit of a gimmick in its waist, it's something that's always given me an absolute headache over the years with this kit. Anyway, popping on the legs like so, and then the other one over here, just like that. So there are the legs, and that funny weird thing, just straight out the box, it's just pyongy and weird. But yeah, that's what this weird switch does. You just kind of pull it and the legs go, huh. Alright, so moving now into the torso, and what we're doing is first building up a bunch of joints for the articulation. So as far as I know, this is pretty much the various parts that build up the waist section. This right here is the polycap that I think attaches the waist unit to the torso, and then we just finish that off by closing it up like that. That assembled up really easily. Next up, we do have a cockpit with pilot figures, so he just pops on in just like that right there. Painting, of course, is optional, but always recommended. That then attaches on in here, as does the joint we just built in behind that. This little section here, which is going to be the sliding mechanism for the cockpit hatch. The neck joint attaches onto the upper section of that, followed by the collar part, which kind of goes in sideways and attaches on in. The first bit of color we're going to see here is this right here, which is a little moving flap section on the back there, which will line up with the red waist. This part right here, which is going to be the attachment point for the backpack that is in plastic, not a polycap. And then we close all of that up just like so, and not really as kind of seamless and perfectly slotting together as modern Bandai kits. Getting things lined up is a little bit more troublesome, and that's some creaky plastic. So next up, we've got these shoulder joints. First off, we've got a bit of blue armor that goes in via an interesting plug style joint that locks into position. Don't screw this up because you're not going to be getting it out very easily. On top of that then, it's the Mecha coated parts that make up a lot of the shoulder joints. I'm not sure how I feel about this, because usually what we get is ABS plastic for joints like this, which is rough and tough and can hold together. This feels a little on the brittle side, so I'm not sure how this holds up over time, but I guess we will see. And if you know yourself, drop in the comments. How's your Master Grade Destiny Extreme Blast Mode holding up? So in order to kind of not screw this up, I didn't want to be twisting these on, so I did actually use a needle nose pliers to push these down without any kind of twist, because otherwise you're kind of working them down poorly, and that could twist off a piece. Anyway, so far so good. We've got these nice little moving sections inside of there. That one popped out a little bit, but it'll be held in from above once built, and that does give it a nice mechanical look. So in a way, is it worth it to have more brittle parts for the look? It depends, I guess, on what you want from a kit. This part then attaches on up here to lock those two joints in position. And finally, we're actually getting to some armor. So this part pops up like that. Waist armor then slots in from underneath like that. So it seems like this right here actually kind of plays the role of not letting this kind of move backwards when the wings, which are heavy, are attached on. So it's kind of like a little bit of a lock. The detail on the rear armor and the molding on the rear armor looking good. Make sure that is actually pulled out all the way before attaching this on in there. Into the front armor right here, we've got this little bit of a cockpit hatch section that attaches in first, and then that pops onto the front. The molding into the blue armor is actually quite nice on this. So there we go so far. Next up then, you layer a couple of parts in here and there, including the red on the upper torso as well as the fin sections inside of the vents. Last up then, we've got the upper cockpit hatch section like so. When that is locked into position, now you've got this nice opening mechanism again. Definitely somewhat of a very stiff kit. But yeah, when it's pulled out, it can open up just like so. So there is that cockpit hatch. And once again, closing it up is just that and this, but it can be a bit on the stiff side to get out. Lastly then, we've got that little bit of detail that goes in underneath the arms and across the chest like so. And this bit then pops on in there like that. Then that just attaches onto the peg in the waist like that. And when it does come to the articulation, there isn't really a whole lot in here. You can open this section back here, and that does allow it to move backwards a little bit. There's a side to side, but everything's very kind of creaky, crunchy, and a little bit on the awkward side. So this kit right here does pose more like a model kit. Like you just pop it into its pose and that's kind of all you're gonna do. It doesn't have that kind of action figure-y vibe that a lot of modern engineered Master Grades has, that you can keep posing, reposing, and posing again. This is incredibly creak, awkward, and I think those joints might be a little bit on the brittle side. So now we're moving on to the arm and the shoulder. So I do have one built as usual, because you do build two of them. This is what it looks like, and all in all, not too bad. Again, I do love the chrome Mecha. It does look phenomenally nice. The arm and the shoulder are separate units, so they don't attach together, which is usually the case when it does come to Master Grade kits. The way it actually attaches on is it slides on to the shoulder first, just like that. This section here, of course, is the beam boomerang that can be removed. And this then just pops on like so until the point where it kind of pops in. This shoulder joint does feel a little bit on the loose side already. It is a polycap up there. And I'm not sure if these these metallic polycaps kind of don't do the job quite as well as a standard polycap. But yeah, there is a few moving parts, including the shield aspect here. And the fingers are those kind of older master grade style fingers. The kind of middle era ones where 3 are stuck together and the index and thumb are free to move. So you start at the upper arm, so a polycap pops on in like so. Then you immediately jump on down to the forearm and pop another polycap in there like that for the wrist. And then that just closes up like that. Mechy part then for the elbow joints, so they're a little bit tight. Squeeze that in. Good and good. And then the upper section pops up there, just like so, and again, a little bit tight to get in there. But yeah, a simple joint, kind of like, again, what you'd see in a high grade. That closes up like so. We do have a big old nasty nip there in the elbow, and that is it to the inner frame of the arm. Then you just pop on the wrist section like so. The forearm armor then pops on down from the top like this, followed by this cuff aspect right here, and it is the rounded side right there to the outside. When it comes to this bracer armor section, this is kind of interesting because this is somewhat asymmetrical in a weird kind of way. So this is a polycap joint which pops in here like that, but there is only one of this polycap, so that means on the other arm it does have a nice plastic piece in there. So that is interesting. So they're not entirely the same. This is polycap, other side is not. Next up, we're building these hands. These are the hands I refer to as the wanker's cramp hands, because that was just a weird old joke that used to go around, I don't know what the town I was from when I was a child. But yeah, it just means the hand is stuck in this kind of position all of the time. But we do have some nice fixed pose hands with the Destiny, so that means that isn't the biggest issue in this particular kit. Also, again, the Mechy does look extremely nice. Even though there is some pock marks from where you cut it out here and there, it still does look ridiculously shiny. That's a nice paint or coating. There's a bit of a mechanism to the rear of the hands on this kit, which is more trouble than it's worth almost, but it is kind of impressive. So there is a clip little hand, or should I say grippy section that goes on through. You push it through like that, and there is the attachment point coming through. Then you attach this on from the side like this. Again, not the easiest thing to do. I recommend using a tool to squeeze both of these parts properly together. And then that just slots in there just like so. And that feels to me like it might pop off when you're trying to attach the shield on, but I guess we'll see. Or maybe not. And finally then that just attaches onto the rear of the hand. And I love the back of the hand armor on the Destiny. It's just so unique. Next then we're on to these shoulder units. These are very simple, just that part into that part for a nice thruster detail. This then has a little bit of sliding mechanism to it right there, so just popping that on like so. This bit here is what you affix the beam boomerang into. The part that we built a second ago just pops up top like so. And finally then this just pops in. So again, very simple, not really an incredible amount to it. Quite plain on the surface too, but I guess that is anime accurate. The beam boomerang segments just pop together as 3 pieces, so this just attaches in. Oh, you I guess this is a little bit of a balancing act right here, so you just pop that in. Oh no, it does fix in. And then sandwiches on like that. And then that just pops on into the inside section and then slides upwards just like that. So once again, that then just pops on up there. And the arm then attaches on like so until it pops into position, and yeah, that one's loose too. Alright, so now moving on to the wings, I have built one of these. These are quite nice, so they open up just like so, just as creaky as the rest of the kit as well, for whatever reason. There is some nice little grey detailing on the ends of these, but for the most part they are, again, somewhat plain by modern master grade standards. We do have a nice little piston up there though, in that nice mechy color, and overall, not too bad. These build up in a kind of funny way. We've got these little ring segments that attach into the center of the center small wing. Then the next ones of those build onto them like that and like that. So there is a little bit of movement, not a lot really, between these 3. We've got some little gray sections here. Do not drop these. These are about the size of a nub. So if these go missing and you've got a, well, floor covered in 1 bajillion gunpla nubs like I do, then it's not going to be an easy... I'm going to shut up for a second, actually. That one got a little bit sketchy, but yeah, it's not going to be an easy task to find those. Anyway, nice bevels on those. This is where we pop on that Mecha piston. There is the innie, there is the outer. We've got a polycap for inside this little middle wing section. The 3 smaller wings then attach on like so. Piston pops on into the hole, and then the outer section of this little lower wing section then pops on there. These do have absolutely horrendous seams down them, and there's not really much doing about these. I do recommend actually throwing some Tamiya extra thin in there and actually cementing them together and then sanding them together permanently. On the next round of weird, funny little bits to the build, we've got these little bits that connect on like so. That then is what the outer section wing parts attach onto. This little bit just cups onto them, and that is what we get again. Not great seams all along the length of this, and the nubs are right on the edge. Not awesome. Black section then slides on up here to attach everything together via pressure. Thruster in here, actually even the high grade that gives this sort of a run for its money. I just built it the other day, and it is one impressive high grade still. Next up, we've got a little bit of a joint for where the wings attach. This is made out of some real creaky plastic yet again, very hard to push together, and actually a lot of the parts on this do attach together somewhat poorly on the wings. It's seamline hell as of right now, and it's okay. Not fantastic. Alright, so a couple of steps have been skipped there because I had to dump the files on the camera, and I did build a back little section here. So again, there's a couple of moving bits, but they don't move a whole lot really. We do have a sliding gimmick inside here, which is pretty cool. These are plug-ended, so they don't pull out, and these can kind of move forward and back. Again, very, very, very creaky. And there's the arm. Super, super creaky again. That doesn't feel good. But anyway, as for the way this all attaches on, once you do have that built, there is that kind of plug, and it attaches in just like so. This little bit there for the weaponry around back, the storage, that attaches on again. Even though it is creaky, that does make the joints good and strong, which is probably good for something that has to hold on to a lot of weight. And then to attach that onto the Destiny, it just pops on into the back like so. Simple as. But yeah, all that's left now is the head. So when it comes to the head in here, it is very simple and very old school. So you attach the red beard section in underneath the muzzle, and there's a clear section for the eyes. This is good if you want to customize the head cameras in clear colors, but not so great if you just want to straight build your kit. So that does mean there is stickers required for the eyes, as well as stickers required for the front head camera. There is no clear parts for the rear head cameras. These are just molded into the back of the gray plastic, so you just attach a couple of stickers for that. Next up then, we've got a neck joint segment, which attaches into a Mecha section, so we do have some nice Mecha vents and Vulcans. And finally then you just pop the front of the head onto that, as well as the V-fin and its red section. And one weird thing, and kind of is odd about older Gundam kits, Bandai doesn't do it anymore, but you can attach some things on in the wrong places and the wrong way around, like I did right here. That red section on the V-fin is upside down. You can't do that on modern kits. Everything only fits on one way and one way only, but you can do it in older ones. But yeah, this right here is what you get when it's finished. So again, it is okay. Pretty similar to what we would have seen with the high grade kit, but the Mecha Vulcans there and the little vents on the side definitely make it that bit different. Overall, the head on the Destiny is incredibly, incredibly cool, and yeah, for the most part, very, very nice. Finally getting that popped on there then, and that does not go on that easy, like a lot of this kit. But yeah, once you do get it on, that right there is the master grade Destiny finished. And this definitely has more of a anime feel to it than a lot of the newer kind of Gundam Seed kits. So I guess it has that as an advantage. But yeah, then once you've actually the robot itself finished, we're not even near the finish line just yet. There is a whole lot going on inside of this box, so I definitely underestimated it at first. Anyway, you've got your rifle, it's got a movable front handle, 2 parts slapped together, and there's a lot of little detailed aspects that attach onto it, including nice color separation. However, I can kind of see why these older kits just took so long to build. It was never anything to do with how complex they were, it's how many nubs were just scattered all over the place. The cleanup on these is ridiculous. Compared to modern kits that usually hide most of the nubs, if not all of them, these are right on the surfaces and do need cleaning. The shield builds up nicely with a nice attachment point, and there is a mechanism inside of it that allows it to slide up and down. Again, all the colors you need to make it color accurate, and it does look nice. Of course, one of the highlights of Seed kits is the Arendite beam sword, or any of those big beam swords. Again, this builds up in the usual kind of way. There is a lot of transforming mechanisms inside of it. Definitely still old school by today's standards, but it's still nice. Sliding mechanism bending mechanisms, and there is a blade section up top, and of course it can fold for storage. You've got the high energy beam cannon as well. This is made out of even more parts and has a nice opening gimmick inside of it when you do build it up. These take quite a little bit of time to build, so they are more detailed than you'd see with the high grade, but they still have the same color separation issues that they do not have the red segments on the sides, but again, builds up very, very nicely. Even with those weapons done, you're not done yet. This kit does include a unique stand. These aren't the greatest, they're a little bit funny, but it is nice to have an included stand with them. So basically, you just build up the stem section. There is a nut and bolt holding together the bending aspect, so it will be strong up top. You then extend the stock section a little bit more and add on a little cradle to rest the kit into. This all attaches into a base section, which is just like the Destiny's wings, and this is a little bit wobbly if I remember correctly, so only really for long-term storage, somewhere solid. And at this point, you're still not done. You've got 3 extra hands in here. That's 2 for the palma fiocina, which can also be used for the throwing of the boomerangs, which also has some clear parts. So there's clear boomerang throwing parts, funny looking clear palma fiocina ones. They're just in colorless clear, 3 parts attached together, and it just looks very unique, just like a weird long bit, really. And then, of course, you've got your pilot figures of Kira and Shin. Now, these build up, well, just out of 3 parts a piece. These I am super impressed by. They really do catch the light phenomenally, almost like an ice sculpture, and they just are cool. Of course, you can paint them up if you want to. You would lose that cool, clear effect. So I'm torn between leaving them as is and painting them. Honestly, I don't have the time to paint them, so they're going to stay as is. But I'm glad they look nice the way they are. So finally, there is a full spread of when you've got the Master Grade Destiny Gundam Extreme Blast mode built in. If there's one thing you cannot say about this kit is that it does not come with a lot of stuff. So this is definitely an event build. An event built from almost 20 years ago, but it was an event. So much comes in here, so many options, so many choices, effects. Those 1/20th scale characters in that nice icy clear, a stand, it's pretty much got everything. Of course, because I did spend all day building this, I won't be able to actually review it. I don't think I've ever reviewed a Destiny kit. They're not the greatest kits around. They're not even really as good as some of the older other Master Grade seed kits like the Force Impulse or the Sword Impulse or the Infinite Justice. There's just something so awkward and kind of awkward is probably the only word I can really say about them, but then again, I haven't deep dived into why that actually is. But yeah, if you like a lot of stuff, you're going to get a lot of stuff inside this box, and all I'm going to do now is kind of set it up in the way I plan to have this up on a shelf. One thing I did notice though, these right here, I didn't actually take them out of the pack at first, but the rub-on transfers are in a metallic gold. That is a really, really nice touch. That's pretty cool. Maybe I'll throw one of those on. Yeah, why the hell not? So yeah, I decided to attach on a couple of the decals. First off, one of the shoulder stickers, sadly, is a sticker, so it's not actually one of those rub-on decals, but I stuck it on anyway to complete it. Then I did rub on some of the rub-on decals, and I'm not sure if it's like time or if it was the gold style ones or something like that, but there's a lot of kind of weird schmutz that kind of went in between the actual kind of lettering. Before, I always felt with these rub-on ones, the lettering would go down and all that other kind of crap underneath wouldn't go down with it. That it was just the letters. I'm not sure if something has aged poorly in here or what. Again, this is a kit that would have been made during the red label days, so it's probably one of the original kits from back in 2007. Maybe these decals don't age that well, and that might be why Bandai retired them. Alright, so now all I'm going to do is get this set up on the stand, and I guess for a pose I'm just going to go with what's on the box art, because who can argue with Bandai? That's a pretty badass pose, so I'm just going to go with that. Let's see how easy or difficult it is to actually pull off. Whoo-wee! Trying to get this into a pose with the stuff attached onto it is, well, very quickly bringing back why I've never been a fan of this kit. First off, the hips on this are the worst. Probably when it comes to Master Grades, I don't think I've ever seen worse hips on anything. When you try to move the legs up, they just kind of collapse upwards and you don't even get the hip joints moved. It's just, you have to kind of pose them higher than you want them for them to flop sadly down into the pose you want. Then just attaching other things on gets a little bit old. You can attach the Arendite beam sword on fairly easily because you do have a holding hand in here, but it gets worse from there, I'll tell you that. On the other side then I threw on a Palma Fiocina, hoping to actually throw on the beam effect. It's not in blue like it shows on the box, it's just in clear, but still that's not too bad, until I realized you can't actually pop it onto the hand that on the box it's using it with. That box art, it's about to palm off from its left hand. No, this can only be used in the right hand. Oh man, and then it was time for the wings. I forgot how fucking atrocious these things are. One, they don't look great. They're just like 2 bits of acetate with some like lines melted into them, really. Compared to like other kits out there, like even the high grade, these look miserable. And getting them in is even more miserable. You have to attach on these weird little clear parts that barely hold on, and they barely even hold the kit on. And if you make any kind of misstep at all, they'll explode. And then you have to go and kind of find them because they barely hold onto it. They kind of hang and dangle just so you can try and get them into position, and they'll just maybe hold on there. It's a miserable experience to say the least. Worst Wings of Light ever. This kit right here is a real poster child for quantity is not better than quality at all. And that brings me to where I am right now, which is right here. So getting this kind of into a little bit of a pose, and you might be like, that actually looks good. And I suppose that is the worst thing about this. It's a bit of a honey trap of sorts. It kind of fools you in with how nice it does look, and then it absolutely, well, kicks you in the nuts with how kind of rubbish it kind of is. First off, this cannot hold its weapon up, so this just goes flop. So yeah, you're gonna have to tighten up that joint at least. So this can't even pull off the pose on the box. That's the closest thing I got to it. You will need some kind of support stand. I just threw a stand in there very quickly, just kind of for the sake of what you're about to see. But yeah, that right there is it for the video. It's nice to revisit a kit that I had built before and see how it is now. Thought maybe after 10 or 12 or 13 years more of building Gunpla, that I might be able to see some kind of like worth in this kit. And yes, it does look amazing, so that is the aspect. The build is not that fun. The finished kit is a little bit on the miserable side, but there is something to be salvaged from it. If you do glue some of the parts in position like the Wings of Light, tighten up some of the joints, it still does look gorgeous. Get the decals on there, actually maybe get some water slides or third-party ones top coated up. It will look incredible. It will be a nice piece up on your shelf. But out of box, this thing is not great, which is kind of sad because some of the seed kits, even the older ones, are phenomenal. Infinite Justice, the Sword, Impulse Gundam are absolutely fantastic kits and I love them. However, this right here does have some issues. Not impossible to fix issues, but it is worth thinking. Is it worth your money to invest in something like this right here, which will be a bit problematic out of box, or should you get something that just is an all-round better Gunpla? If you're like me, you'll just want it anyway. And if you do, I got it through Bai, link is down there in the description. It still looks nice. But there's better options out there. Even the high grade and the metal build, I feel, destroy this in pretty much most aspects. Anyway, I will see you again tomorrow for another Gunpla video. Once again, I can't finish this video right here without special thanks to the channel members and the patrons over on Patreon, including Simon Paskin, Abraxas, Caleb Engelhart, Joe, RG59061, ShadowWolf179, Van Fawn, and Scotty Thomas.